In today's video, I'm going to be having a look at the US unemployment situation. We're also going to be looking at what's going on with the pound dollar and a pattern that I can see starting to form. In addition to that, we're going to be talking about Australian defence money. Hello and welcome to another acysecurities market update. My name is Alistair Schultz and I'm going to be a host through today's trading journey. The first thing to take note of today is about the US unemployment claims that came in last night and of course non-farm payroll. We've seen the unemployment rate drop to 11.1% from 12.4%. So this is good news for the economy. We have regained about 4.8 million jobs and unfortunately though there is still some headwind risks for them. We're seeing a resurgence of virus threats across the US. Naturally, this threatens the idea of a reopening. In addition to this, we've seen Texas, Florida and New York either backtracking on their own reopenings or cancelling and even going into further restrictions of lockdown. So it's going to take some time to see how this plays out. We've already heard from Dr. Fauci that says we're likely to see 100,000 cases a day, and that number is already halfway there at 50,000. And for the last week or so, we've seen more than 35,000 every single day. So there is some serious concern behind how many numbers of viruses are going to occur, and of course, how many people are going to remain to keep their jobs beyond for the long term. Now, beyond that, I have a pound dollar chart here for you today. It's just something that I've quickly noticed. I've highlighted a little circle here on the chart behind me. And what you'll see is what I'm looking at is probably the starting foundations of what looks to be a head and shoulders pattern. Naturally, it's not quite there yet. We do have to wait for the next leg. This is a 4-hour pound dollar chart, so it could take some time to arrive. We may not see it until sometime early next week. If it ends up being the case, then wait for the neckline break and look for an opportunity below that. Now, moving on to Australian defence money talks. I just want to go through the process here that I always go through when it comes to defence stocks and what I'm currently looking at. We need to know what we know. So the first things that we do know, or what we know, is that there's $270 billion planning to be spent over 10 years. We've got long-range missiles being included in that, including missiles to be purchased from the US Navy. There's $9.8 billion to be spent on research and development of long-range missiles and or long-range weaponry. And we've got between $5 to $7 billion on underwater surveillance systems and potentially unmanned subs. In addition to all of that, we've got $15 billion dedicated towards cybersecurity, of which $1.3 billion is going to be going towards the ASD and the ACSC, which are existing government franchises that focus on cybersecurity. Now, in addition to that, we've also got $7 billion going towards communication systems and satellites. So we kind of have a spectrum of where some of this money is going. We don't know where all of it's going, but we know where some of it's going. That's an important factor to consider. So the first company that we've got notification on that is actually getting some of this money is EOS. They are Electro-Optic Systems Holdings. They are on the ASX exchange. They are technically counted as a small cap. And they've recently had a tour of the grounds by ScoMo, or Scott Morrison. Now, what's been contracted is for 251 remote weapon stations for vehicles, much like the one you see on the picture behind me. This allows a weapon system to be fired from the safety of within a Bushmaster or some of the other military type of vehicles that they have without getting shot by bullets. So this is one way that they are putting some of the money forward, and this is what we know. There was trading halted for EOS on the early days of July 2nd. We're not sure if that's continued and if they're going to see a stock rise because we're waiting for that cash injection to occur. And that's when I'm going to be considering what to do as terms of opportunity comes. The next one is, where is my actual interest lying? Now, when we look at all of the money that's being spent, there are two places that we know there's going to be a great deal of funding: cybersecurity and drones and missiles. Now, the potential for us to be able to look at the cybersecurity is probably the best choice. Drones and missiles, not so much, because there could be a potential for most of them, which was already been knowing that a lot of missiles are going to be coming directly from the US. But it would be unfortunate to sort of see that being the only case and not be able to make an opportunity of money out of it. However, on the drone front, should they go down that unmanned aerial aircraft side of things, then we might look at companies like Lockheed Martin Corporation, who developed obviously aviation products and have recently made the F-35A, B and C fighter jets for the US military. Now, the other one to look at would be Boeing. Both of these companies do make UAVs. They have made a variety of other weapon systems. And of course, they also make missiles. So in terms of the research and development front, this might mean that we might see some money going towards these sort of companies in the near future or perhaps in the longer term. But for now, it's looking like the missile side of things is probably going to be a little bit later for us to be able to see an opportunity that's worthwhile. We obviously can't invest in the US Navy for some of these missiles. However, we might be able to get an opportunity out of LMT and of obviously Boeing. Now, where my interest really lies is in the cybersecurity front. There's a lot of money being dedicated to this, with the idea of $15 billion all going towards cybersecurity. We can take out $1.3 billion of that going to existing metrics, but there are a number of cybersecurity firms in Australia, of which some of them already have US defense contracts and a variety of other contracts with relations to Australia. The ones that I'm seeing at the moment are AR9, TNT, Whitehawk, and of course Sonatus. All of these offer some way of capability, either encryption services or they might be involved in direct cybersecurity and or file sharing. It's all something to work with the idea of cybersecurity though. And to me, these look like the better picks to have a look for. I'm not saying to invest now, and I'm certainly not going to be investing in them immediately myself. But there is a bit of framework for you to think about on this. I look at all of these sort of stocks, or find the variety of things when it comes to defense stocks, to gauge an idea of where we might see a contract go. It's good to have a look at what might be some of the unique opportunities that might come up. And when we do start to see a tender or we see a contract with a cooling off period that might involve a cash injection, then that's when we sort of have to have a look for which company might offer us the best returns. It may not even be one of these 4 companies, but to me, when you look at the ASX listed cybersecurity firms, these are the 4 that stand out to me. Now, moving on from that for today, the news ahead. We have a US bank holiday occurring. We also have Eurozone services PMI coming out of France, Germany, and Spain. And so there's going to be a tentative announcements on all of those. We're not sure exactly what the effect is going to be because they all come out at the same time, but usually there's not a huge impact. Now, the other one is going to be UK financial services coming out as a PMI. That could be useful. It isn't a high rated impact, but it is moderate. So keep an eye on it, especially if you're trading the pound. Now, if there's anything from today's video that you've enjoyed, please feel free to get in contact with me at talktoal@acy.com. And don't forget to like and subscribe so you get more great content from me and ACY Securities in the future. Have a great trading day ahead.